Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Motherhood is both amazing and difficult at the same time. The Passport Mommy, Michelle Jerson, is here to share in your journey.
It's amazing. It really is, just watching them grow and see how much change and how much they learn just without the filters around them.
Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome to the show. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. I hope you had another great week. I hope you are staying sane. I hope you're staying healthy and well, and your families are well. You know, I was used to having my kids home with me for most of the time anyway. My daughter did start going to daycare, though, a year ago when my son was born. So I always had a break in the day, sometime to do work, to get something done. And now it's just becoming increasingly more and more difficult. And I have heard from other parents too, that even though we could go to sleep at night when the kids go to sleep, we end up staying up because either A, it's the only time to get anything done, or B, it's our only time for us. We all love our kids. We all say that, right? We love them. We love them. We love them. But there are just some times that maybe our patience are tested. And when it comes to disciplining, we might say something that we didn't want to say after the fact. And then we might look back and then make ourselves feel even more guilty. And so it just keeps going around and around. So I am thrilled to have with me today Debbie Godfrey. She is the owner of PositiveParenting.com, where she teaches parenting skill classes and workshops all around the country. And I know that we can all benefit from this because there is no book for parenting. Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I should say there's no rule book. There's books. There's lots of books on parenting, but I feel like there's no guide to really help us and somebody to be in our ear when we are having those moments. And I think, you know, look, as our children get through different ages, whether they're 2, they're 3, they're 4, they test us in different ways. And I feel it's important to be armed with the best possible way to know how to work with them.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's a good point. Their job is to test us. Their job is to test the limits and boundaries. And our job is to provide them. And when we understand that their environment gives them the information that they need to behave the way that they're behaving, that empowers us as parents. So if we realize our kids, basically they're shopping for behaviors that work to get their needs met. And most parents don't understand what children's basic needs are. Do you want to know what they are, Michelle?
Of course.
Okay. So their basic needs are to feel loved, to feel valuable, to feel powerful, to feel like they have a place, to experiment and explore, to be loved, to be special. So all of these needs are what our children are seeking from the time they're born, and they're going to use their behavior to get those needs met. And so if we hold a different paradigm of why our children are misbehaving, it can be really frustrating, leading to what you were talking about in your introduction. So if we think our children are just stubborn or spoiled, or they're just like their mom or dad, these are all mistaken beliefs about why our kids are misbehaving. And they lead to us feeling that so discouraged because our kids are misbehaving, so I've got to get control of them. And what do you notice happens when you try to get control of your children?
It just gets worse. It just gets worse. I have definitely noticed that. Yeah. Yep.
It's a total downward spiral. And so that's why holding all these beliefs, which are old beliefs, which are like labels and mistaken perceptions of our children, are not helpful for us. So when we have a paradigm shift where we suddenly see, oh my gosh, every time my child, and this doesn't matter whether we're looking at a toddler or a teenager, if they're misbehaving, it's because they're discouraged from getting one of those needs met, to feel loved, to feel valuable, to feel powerful. And so if I take the stance that my child is searching for how to feel loved or powerful right now or valuable, I can help my child find a way to get that need met through more appropriate behavior than their misbehavior that they're doing right now.
I feel like that applies to adults too. Like, let's take a marriage.
Absolutely.
If one partner feels like they're not loved or getting what they need, they will act out and they will get angry and they will get mad, as opposed to saying, hey, I really need to be loved right now.
And that's a lot of why the work that I do teaching parents works so well, because I set up exercises and role plays and I interact with the parents in a way that they really get to experience and remember what it felt like when they were a child and understand and be able to reinterpret the reason that their children are misbehaving and what that they can do about it now.
My daughter she's 3 years old and she is potty training, but there are times, most times, that we have to say over and over again, go to the potty, go to the potty. You're doing your potty dance, go to the potty. And I feel it's more of a disciplining thing and more of she just doesn't feel like listening versus she can't, because she definitely knows how and can.
I would be kind of a little more cautious and patient with that one, because that's a basic need. If a child doesn't feel powerful in their world, ultimately that's the one area that they can command power no matter what we do. And so in really exacerbated challenges in that area where children feel completely powerless in their entire life, and this is not in your situation, but this might be in abuse situations and things like that. And actually, I shouldn't say it that way, because even parents that are doing a great job have their children do this sometimes, and it's because they feel powerless. But they will actually write on the walls with their feces, and they'll, ultimately, if they're needing a sense of power, they will use this. They own it, okay? And so we don't want to get into huge power struggles starting from potty training with them. And that's why it's best to do this really thoughtfully, really gently, and avoid the power struggles pretty much at all costs, so that you don't get them to do that. Because what happens is this and again, it's not going to happen in your case. You're a great mom, and I know you.
Well, you don't really know, but I hope to be.
Yeah,
I hope I am.
But I've had a couple of instances where parents have told me about, say, a 5-year-old, and I remember one in particular. The little girl came up. She was mad at her mom. She walked up to her in the living room and squatted on the floor and peed on the floor, like at
oh my
her mom.
goodness.
Like
okay.
And it's bad. So that's why I'm saying, even if you know full well she's capable, there's a reason that she's not complying, and she's 3 and she's in learning mode of a new thing. And so you give her the benefit of the doubt. Okay. And just understand that what your most successful tool here is going to be repetition and also a good routine. So if you notice her habits and her patterns, like how often does she go? And, if you know she needs to go, sometimes it's just a matter of, picking her up and taking her, not asking, like taking action, not using the words. And I have a 2-hour power struggle that I teach, and contained in that workshop are lots of different tools to get out of those power struggles and to avoid them in the first place, so that you don't go toe to toe. Because as soon as you get that defiance coming back, that child has just learned that, oh, I can be really powerful if I defy mom. Like, this feels really good. And they actually grab onto this unconsciously. She's not out to get you. She's not trying to do it consciously, but it's how they pick up on their environment. And so she'll be like, wow, this is really cool. I just don't do what she says. And she gets all crazy mad. And then as a parent, we do even worse. We say, you're driving me crazy, which solidifies the fact that they're so powerful that they can control our emotions. And this is a huge mistake. So they're connecting being powerful with being defiant. And that's what we need to retrain them on, is that you can get power and you can feel powerful in your world, and you don't need to defy me or have an attitude or disrespect me. And so that's part of the training is learning all the ways to help our children feel powerful and valuable and build their self-esteem, while at the same time correcting their misbehavior and setting limits and boundaries where those need to be set. So in this case, avoid that power struggle. So if it's time for her to go, you just go grab her hand and start skipping or put a dance on or pick her up or, just do something. And if you're struggling too much and you're taking her in there and she's not going, then you're giving her the cues too often. You can do it less often, because I know sometimes we just get really scared they're going to make a mistake or this or that. And so, it's up to you to kind of follow her system so that you can kind of sense more. Back in there's these cultures where this is information that comes out of attachment parenting, but there's these cultures where moms carry their babies on their hip from the time they're born. And within 1 week, a mother knows when her child is going to go. So she'll lean in a way that takes the child away from her body, so the child will pee on the ground and not on mom.
Wow.
And if the child pees on the mother after the child's about a week old, she's branded a bad mother, because that means she's not connected with her child. And so, we think about what we've lost in terms of, really being in tune and in touch with our child. And in the area of potty training, I think we need to maybe not be that sensitive. We're not living in that culture, but to really notice and observe and understand. And 3 years old is a perfectly normal age. I know a lot of people get their kids trained earlier, and some of them are way later, and girls tend to be earlier than boys, but eventually they all get trained. And if you know there's no health issue involved, you've had her at the pediatrician and all that, then this one is one you want to let go of.
Talking with Debbie Godfrey. She's the owner of PositiveParenting.com. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
We are speaking with Debbie Godfrey. She's the owner of PositiveParenting.com. She teaches parenting skill classes and workshops around the country. So useful. I feel like this is the greatest tool that us as parents should learn, because there is no rule book, and it makes such a difference. I've seen personally, look, when I've had a rough day, or maybe I'm fighting with my spouse and then I get more frustrated with my child, I see that it doesn't accomplish anything. But when I'm really calm and patient and positive, it just brings so much more of a more productive day and a better solution to what I'm looking for. Debbie, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Yes, it is totally great to be here. This is so fun to help parents not be so frustrated, for sure.
So we were talking before the break about power struggles, and we were talking about potty training. Now, I'm not going to unload my entire list of power struggles with you, but I will say that one of the big ones that I'm trying to figure out how to work through is the nighttime routine, because the power struggle there is that she does not want to fall asleep without one of us next to her until she is in a deep sleep. And I love cuddling with her. It's my favorite part of the day. But what happens is then I fall asleep, and then I wake up 3 hours later. And then those 3 hours that I had, the only ones in the day that I had to do anything, is gone. And so I've tried so many different ways to get her to stay in bed, and it's just not working. Any suggestions?
Well, are you willing to not fall asleep in her bed, first of all?
I have tried.
It sounds like that's a good... Okay. What is her bedtime?
Her bedtime is, I try to get it by 8 o'clock, but sometimes I would say it varies between 8 and 9:30. And then some days lately, she won't go to bed until 10:30 or 11, because if my husband or I try to put her in and then leave, she keeps popping out of her room, and she will not go in her bed alone.
Okay. And is she, now does she have a little brother or older? I forget what
she does. Yeah. She has a brother who's 2 years younger than her.
Okay. Okay. And are they in the same room?
No. And he goes right down. Good. And that's it.
Okay.
He's a great sleeper.
And what time does he go down?
About 7 or 7:30.
Perfect. Okay. So one of the things that will help this situation is for you to decide a bedtime structure or routine that you're going to stick to. And you don't have to stick to it forever. So don't think of it in terms of, oh my gosh, I've got to do this for the next 5 years. No, it's something that if you stick with it for 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, you should be able to smooth yourself over into a new pattern and then loosen up a little bit. And so that if you did, fall asleep in her bed here and there, it's not going to break the system. So first thing is to decide what time her bedtime will be. Okay. And I'm going to suggest earlier rather than later, because at that age, she does need the extra sleep. And the later it goes, the more overtired they get, and it's harder to get them down. Right. So that's going to be really important. And then the next thing is to create a routine, a bedtime routine that says, this is what we're doing. And she's little, so it's not so much like with a little bit older child, I would actually create that routine with them. But you might just make it up and say, okay, we're going to, read 3 books, and then I'm going to give you 5 hugs and 6 kisses and cuddle with you for 1 minute. And I would actually set the timer, like however you decide to do this, so that when it goes off, it's done. And then I'm going to, leave the room singing, and then you're going to stay in bed. So you come up with a really specific, concrete system for putting her to bed that feels good for you, that you get enough bonding, you get enough connection. And then you don't even have to really say this because she's too little to understand it. But what you're going to do is you're going to follow through after that. You're going to follow through. You're going to follow through with the system, and we can cover a little more of this after the break if you like.
Okay. Yeah. Because we have about 2 minutes left in this segment, because I would love to cover more about this, because I feel like I do the routine. We do the bath, we do the brush teeth, get ready for bed, read a book, sing a song, and then we go into her bed and we talk about the day. But it's like, no matter how much of a routine we have, the second I leave that room, when she was in her crib, she was fine. But now that she's in her bed, the second I leave that room, she pops out. And maybe it's just a matter of putting a lock. We have a baby gate there, which she knows how to open now. So I don't really know what else to do, because she just doesn't stay.
Right. And you don't want to lock it, because that could be scary for her. So you're going to actually, you can train her to do this, and I'll help you with that for sure. We can come up with a plan for what you do when she comes out of bed.
Okay, perfect. So in the meantime, tell everyone where they can go for more information on you, and if they would like to get in touch with you.
Yeah, it's interesting. You started off by saying I'm teaching all over the country and around the world, which I did until the pandemic. So now I am on Zoom, literally I have parents all around the world. So every single day at 2 p.m. Eastern, I am live on Zoom for half an hour for free for any parent that wants to join me. So you can find that information at positiveparenting.com, and that's the best way to get to me. I'm also Positive Parenting Debbie on Instagram, and I do have a Facebook page as well, but you can find those through my website.
Great. I know. I've been meaning to jump on and watch your class. I was so happy to see it pop up on my Facebook the other day. And then we're talking, same thing at night, same thing for naps in the afternoon. Unless I lay with her, she does not want a nap anymore. And part of me says, well, she's 3, maybe she just doesn't want a nap, but I know she needs it, because when we go in the car or when I take her in a stroller, she still falls asleep. So I struggle with that too. So more coming up, because I'm sure I'm not the only one. We're speaking with Debbie Godfrey. She's the owner of PositiveParenting.com.
Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. We're speaking with Debbie Godfrey. She's the owner of PositiveParenting.com. She teaches parenting skills and workshops. And like she said earlier, she used to travel the country and the world to teach parents everywhere these skills that are just so helpful. But now she's doing it over Zoom, and she has a free Zoom class for anybody who would like to join at 2 p.m. Tell me again, Debbie, where can people go for that information?
If they go to positiveparenting.com and click on the very top link, at the very top of the page, there's a link to the Positive Parenting Zoom classes. And there you can get the link that takes you to Zoom to register to join that class. And it's, again, every day it's 30 minutes. It's quick. We get in, we get out. I've got parents from all over the world. I've been doing this since April 3rd, every single weekday.
Wow.
And it's been wonderful. So, yeah, and I just started a curriculum yesterday. So we're just in the beginning of going through it's a total of 15 hours. So I'll be doing the same curriculum until July 10th. And so this is the only time ever I've offered it free. So it's definitely the time for people to join and check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the time that people, I feel, need it more than ever. So before the break, we were talking about my personal issues that I'm going through right now with my daughter. I wouldn't call them issues. They're just things that are going on with her refusing to. Right, exactly. She refuses to stay in bed at night. She's 3 years old. No matter how many stories we tell, things we talk about, if I say, okay, I've said to her, I'm going to go out now. I have to go to the bathroom. I'll come back in 5 minutes and check on you. No, won't have it. She's out of the bed. And same thing for nap time, just will not nap anymore.
Okay, so I'm gonna take you back a little bit and just go through what we were talking about earlier, which is, when did these children learn that it was fun to power struggle with us? And when did they learn that they could get their power by not doing what we say? So how old do you think she might have been when she learned that from you?
I would say probably 2.5, almost 3.
Okay. And it's lower. It goes lower. And so if I had a group of parents, if I was teaching in a workshop, I would say lower. Some of them would say 18 months. I would say lower, a year-old lower. It's actually between 6 and 8 months old. So what was your daughter's developmental task at 6 to 8 months of age?
What was her task?
What was she learning to do in that time? Physically.
Eat salads.
And yes, and also she was crawling. She was learning to crawl, right?
Right.
So when they learn to crawl, this is their first time they're getting out in their world and they're experimenting and exploring their world. Okay, they start crawling. So this is where it starts. And what happens is our little one starts crawling around, and all of a sudden one day they get to the dirt in our plant that's sitting in our living room. And they grab a handful of dirt and they dump it on our white rug. And so we run over and we go, no, 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 and we take them away from there. And a little while later, the kids crawling around, they're doing their basic need to experiment and explore. And all of a sudden they see the dirt and they're like, oh, cool, dirt. And they pick up a handful of dirt and they dump it on our white rug. And we come over and we're a little louder this time. No, 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 I told you not to do that. We take them away. And then a little while later, they're doing the same thing again. And taking the dirt out, and we come over, I told you not to do that. And sometimes, no, I'm an anti-spanking and I teach not spanking, but parents will slap their little kids' hands or spank them on the butt and say, I told you not to do that. The next time that child is going for the dirt in the plant, that child is no longer doing their developmental task of experimenting and exploring. This time, as the child's crawling toward the dirt in the plant, the child's looking over her shoulder at you. Okay. And what she has just learned, what we call the joy of opposing. She's looking for you to have that big reaction. And the way that we responded in that moment, in those moments leading up to that, is what caused her to learn the joy of opposing. Now, we are the parents and we need to train them and teach them and discipline them. And we have to, they can't take dirt out of plants, so we got to do something. But what is it about what I did that trained her the joy of opposing, and that if you defy me, you get power in your world? What was it about my response that was incorrect?
Yeah, I know I'm guilty of that. And my daughter, it's not the dirt in the plants, but it was, I used to come down, and when she wouldn't nap, she'd come down and she'd go into the pantry and she'd dump the protein powder on the floor. She'd dump the oatmeal. And I was like, what? So I know I overreacted.
Okay, good. Okay, so it's not that we reacted, because we have to react. That's our job as parents, is to react. What causes the joy of opposing is the escalation of our emotional response. So the first time they do something like that, we give them a small reprimand and we think it's over, because we think that kids learn like adults, where you tell them one time and they get it. Children are not adults. Children, especially this age child that we're talking about right now, which was back when they were babies, They learn through repetition and redirection only. Those are the only two positive ways that they learn, and especially repetition. Now look at our babies. They will hit the same rattle over and over. They'll play with the same little thing. I remember my grandson was learning to crawl across the thing on the door jamb, and he'd go over and back and over and back like 50 times. Why do we think? Look at the children. The evidence is here. They're learning, and it involves repetition. How many times do we read in the same book? Hundreds of times. Repetition is how they learn. Why do we assume, and we don't do this purposely, Michelle, I know, but why do we assume that we can tell a child this age one time not to do something and that they're going to learn? There's no evidence that that's how they learn. They only learn through repetition. And so the problem with this is when we escalate that emotional response, and so our response is not repetitive. So the cure in this case, the way to not train our children in the joy of opposing, is to respond like a broken record. Respond like a broken record. So I'm going to ask myself, what is the best response here? So now we're going to, okay, well, let me give the example of the dirt and plant. So I'll pick up and this is my son. He actually did this one. That's why I have this story. And so I decided, what's my response going to be here? Well, I'm going to pick him up, and I'm going to say, Michael will learn not to take the dirt out of the plant, or he can't play in the living room. And I'll go plop him down in the kitchen. And so I'm going to do that over and over and over again. I'm going to say the same thing. And the words and the action doesn't matter that much. It's that you do whatever it is you choose the same way, the same tone, pretty much the same words, and that you're a repetition. And so 5 minutes later, he's getting it again. Michael will learn, and I'll go plop her in the kitchen. Michael will learn, and it might be 10, it might be 20, it might be, if we get to 37 times and I lose it, and I'm like, just don't do it anymore. What did he learn? What did he learn?
Right. He learned that he could get mommy infuriated after all that.
After how many times?
Right.
37 times. And so, so he's tacking that away in his mind. Okay, it takes 37 times to tip her. And so he knows next time he's got to push you that many times. That's why it is so ineffective for parents to keep telling their kids over and over to do something or not do something, because they're counting the number of times until you break. And until they break. And so you've got to get more consistent, and we have to get really clear on how we're going to respond in actions rather than words to be effective. Do we have time to go back to your bedtime issue yet?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So back to the bedtime issue, I will say that I do that. I'll put her back in a few times, and then I'll finally say to myself, you know what, just lay there with her until she falls asleep, because it's easier than this back and forth yo-yoing all night. I'll be up all night and she'll be up all night.
Okay. So another mom, just like you, had a 2.5-year-old Holly, and she was getting out of bed. So she decided, she came up with her bedtime routine. And that's really important, that you do a really consistent routine, so she understands when the beginning, the middle, and when the end point is, and you leave. And this mom said, okay, as soon as bedtime's over, if she comes out of bed, I'm going to pick her up and I'm going to carry her gently back to bed. And I'm going to say, Holly's going to stay in her bed, when it's bedtime or whatever. I don't forget what her words were. And she would pick her up and carry her back into her bed. And literally 3 seconds later, Holly would jump up. Right. And so the mom was carrying her back to bed, and she was counting in her head as she was doing this, 1, 2, 5, 10. The first night it was 42 times, Michelle, before Holly stayed in her bed. But after 42 times, Holly stayed in her bed and she fell asleep. Okay. Mom never lost it. Mom never said a word except for her little, whatever she was saying. I think she patted her on the back, or, I forget. It was something loving. So we're not trying to scare them or hurt them or anything. We want them to go to sleep peacefully and lovingly. Right.
Right.
And so the mom leaves after 42 times going, oh my gosh, how can I do this? This is crazy. And, and I was coaching her. I'm like, just keep at it. Right. And so the next night she goes, she's prepared. She's going to do it again. And it was 3 times she carried Holly back to her bed, and Holly stayed in her bed. The third night, she didn't do it.
Wow, that's amazing. So, 3 times.
Yeah. So that's what it looks like. It's a logarithmic drop, but you have to be absolutely steadfast in maintaining and holding your consistency in this. So your broken record response and not losing it and being willing to stick with it until the end. So don't do it on a night when you're extra tired. Make sure that you're prepared.
Okay. Because I also feel like sometimes if both parents are tired, words might come out like, come on, you need to stay in your bed. It's bedtime now. You need to stay in your bed. And then the frustration just builds because the parents are tired and your child's not staying in bed, and that's not going to help anybody.
Exactly. Another instructor, like what I do, was going to be bottle weaning her daughter. And she actually took 3 days off of work because this is the approach that we suggest. And she took time off of work in order to have all of her energy about her to be able to be consistent and help the daughter wean off the bottle. And so that's a monumental task. So, appreciate yourself and give yourself the time and the energy to do that. What is it going to take for you to take care of yourself and be able to have the energy to get through those couple of nights that it's going to take to train her?
Right. Okay. That's great advice. And when you mentioned getting off of the bottle, I hate to tell you this, but my 3-year-old is nursing with her 1-year-old brother. And so again, I was fine when she was 2. And then she was I felt done with it until he came along, and now it's back full force. So what kind of tips do you give for that?
Well, I love that you're nursing both of them. I think tandem nursing is beautiful. And if you're okay with it, it's wonderful. If you're tired and you feel like that's what's depleting your energy and you're ready for her to be done, then it's time for you to, gently do that. Most kids in these kind of situations, if you're really gentle and loving, can be weaned just with your intention. Like you just decide in your mind, like this is done. And you might find that just simply that it'll start to go away. And part of the reason I'm sure she continued on is because baby brother came right at that moment where she could have probably weaned on her own then. And then he came along. And so there's, the sibling stuff, we call it the dethronement when the new child comes. And that often causes a lot of regressive behavior. So, typically we'll see things like they were potty trained and now they're wetting again. They might start using baby talk. If they had been done with their bottle or breast, they'll want it again. And so it's very normal for the older toddler to go through this period of dethronement where they do regressive behavior. So I would absolutely choose that one based on you. Like your feeling. If you're feeling still bonding and this is loving and it's not tearing up your life in any way, keep doing it as long, and she'll leave it when she's finished, when she's complete.
Oh, that's nice to hear because I don't mind it. And I think it's actually nice when the two of them are tandem nursing because they hold hands. He grabs from her hair. It's sweet.
Oh,
it's sweet.
Yeah. No, if that's not bothering you, absolutely keep that one for sure.
Okay, great. We are speaking with Debbie Godfrey. She's the owner of We are speaking with Debbie Godfrey. She's the owner of PositiveParenting.com. She teaches parenting skill classes and workshops. She has a free Zoom class every weekday at 2 p.m. So you just head to her website, PositiveParenting.com, for all of that information on how to jump on that Zoom call every day at 2 o'clock. What a treat, and how nice of you to be doing it, Debbie. So we have one more segment coming up. I want to hear your final tips on what you can offer moms and dads when it comes to positive parenting. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. More coming up in a few.
Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy, and I've so enjoyed talking with Debbie Godfrey. She is the owner of PositiveParenting.com, and she offers really simple and effective ways to work with your child on getting the results that you want from them when it comes to disciplining in certain aspects. And of course, every toddler is going to try you and they're going to test your buttons. They're pushing your buttons. They're learning what sets you off. And it is a power struggle, but it doesn't have to be a challenging one. It doesn't have to be stressful. Debbie, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure to be here.
I feel like there is so much information, or maybe people just need to go to your website and get the curriculum.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to come on again for sure. We can talk about another topic or anything. I love doing this. This is really fun to help parents.
What are some final tips that you have for parents?
Other than taking care of themselves, which is, I feel, the most important topic that I teach in my class, would be an idea called genuine encounter moments. We call them GEMS, GEMS. And a genuine encounter moment comes from a classic work on self-esteem by a woman named Dorothy Briggs. She wrote this book in the 1970s called Your Child's Self-Esteem. And it really was one of the first mainstream works on what your child's self-esteem is and how to build it. And so she came up with this idea that attention without focused attention isn't really attention at all. So if your child comes up and says, "Mommy, look at this pretty picture I drew, look," and we say, "Oh, that's nice, honey." Well, that's not really it. We're not really taking our awareness away from whatever else we're doing. Mm-hmm. And what we want to do is provide our child with 100% focused attention. So I do have an exercise in the class that really hits this home. I can do just a brief version of it here with you, Michelle.
I'll be the child.
So you pretend like you just saw a really beautiful butterfly outside, and you want me to come out and see it. Okay.
Mommy, look, I just found this really beautiful butterfly. Can you come out and see it?
No, not right now, honey. I'm busy. I have stuff to do.
Oh, but just for a moment, just right now.
No, not right now. I can't do it. I'm busy. How are you feeling, Michelle?
Horrible. And I have to say that I am so full of guilt doing this segment because that is my biggest challenge on a daily basis. And I feel a lot of parents now is that we are so torn in so many directions of trying to get work things done while paying attention to our children. And I want to devote 100% to my children because I don't want them to feel like that.
Okay, so you don't get to feel guilty, and all of you parents listening out there, you do not get to feel guilty listening to this, okay? If you were aware, if you had any idea, if you knew what to do, you would do it, and now you're learning. So no beating yourself up, absolutely none of that. Okay, so you were feeling, as the child, what, not important?
Yep. And that you weren't interested in what I found exciting, and maybe what I found exciting really isn't that exciting after all.
Okay, and the number one concept that a child has to have in place to have what the psychologists will call a healthy self-concept is the belief that what's important to me is important to my parent. So another way to say that is once our children internalize the belief that what's important to them is important to us, they have a healthy self-concept. So in this case, we're undermining the development of their healthy self-concept. And we're being frustrated, right? We're being interrupted, and it's really a mess. Okay, so let's do this over again, and this time I'm going to do a genuine encounter moment, and let's just look at what happens. Okay, so come to me, and you want me to go see the butterfly.
Okay, Mommy, look at this cool butterfly I see outside.
Oh, my gosh, it's so beautiful. Good eye. Tell me.
And that makes me feel really
that's all
good.
It took?
Yep.
Okay. And so what does it mean about you that I responded this way this time?
It meant that you took a genuine interest and that, wow, you really feel that what I found was really cool too. And wow, Mom, thanks for sharing that with me.
Excellent. Yes. And so a genuine encounter moment, when you take my class, your job is to do 1 gem per day per child. So your child's going to come to you 100 times a day. Mom, 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 Dad, Dad, Dad. So you're not to run yourself ragged 100 times a day. You're going to do 1 genuine encounter per day for sure, okay? After that, you have 3 options. You can do another gem, you can set a temporary limit, or you can redirect for attention. And those other 2 things are things that I teach in the class, and I'm sure we don't have time to do that today. But another time, I'd absolutely be willing to share those things with your viewers or listeners.
great. I would love to hear some more of that. Absolutely. Maybe next week, maybe a few weeks from now. I would love to have you back on. Debbie Godfrey, thank you so much. Owner of PositiveParenting.com. Head to her website, check out the Zoom information so you can jump on and watch her class any weekday at 2 p.m. Debbie Godfrey, thank you so much for joining me today.